Hey, I'm Rob Gant with the Goose Creek Gazette and the Berkeley Independent. I'm here today at the Summerville Journal-Scene offices with two of my teammates, Ricky Dennis, who works with the Berkeley Independent, Roger Lee for the Summerville Journal-Scene. Guys, week 7 of the high school football season is in the books. We are moving forward into week 8. All right, Ricky, tell us a little bit about what happened in week 7 for the Stags, and then we'll look ahead to week 8.
Sure. Well, as you predicted last week, it would have been a pad your stats night, so that's exactly what it was. Berkeley didn't have much of a problem putting away Stahl. But to Stahl's credit, they did come out, they did fight, they didn't lay down and submit to Berkeley. They did put up a good challenge, and you can kind of see that with a lot of just, mental mistakes that Berkeley made early on. But it did get things going in the second half. It was homecoming for the Stags, and Randy Robinson said that he did give his seniors a good talking to and, reminded them that this is their last homecoming night. So they did come out with some energy. Got a lot of guys playing as you would expect in a game like that. Of course, Eric Hutto and DJ Chisholm connected twice for 2 touchdowns. Keyshawn Wicks, who has been very well this season running the ball, rushed for 2 touchdowns. Tyreek Cooper, who plays both sides of the ball, rushed for a touchdown. And then Sincere Wilson, the backup quarterback, actually ran for a 67-yard touchdown. So they got a lot of folks excited to see a backup guy make a big play. So a good game, and they scored from all cylinders for the Stags.
And, like a lot of games this week, there's some playoff implications for Berkeley coming up this Friday. From what I understand, it's a huge game. Could go a long way toward determining who's going to win that region championship. And Berkeley is the defending region champion, so everybody's trying to knock them off the mountain. How about the Stags this week? Who do they have?
Yep, so Berkeley is the defending region championship, and as Randy Robinson said, in order for them to keep that title, from his point of view, they can't lose any region games. So it's going to come down to this game. They have Buford at Buford as opposed to last year where they hosted Buford, but they're going to head to Buford, and Buford is undefeated this season, so they haven't lost any region game or no game all season. So it's going to be a tough one. I know Coach Rob said that Buford is pretty strong up front, so defensively, so that'll be some things to watch out for. So it's going to be tough. You make that long trip out there to face some physical guys. It's going to be on Berkeley to really keep their composure and be mentally tough and hopefully get that win, even though Buford is going to give them their best shot.
Yeah, Buford's pretty good at running the football. I used to see him a lot when they were in Summerville, playing in Summerville's region. Buford does a great job of just kind of moving the chains and converting first down to first down. Next thing you know, if you don't watch it, Buford will have had the ball for 8 minutes of the quarter. So, yeah, Berkeley definitely has its hands full, but it should be a great game. And I look forward to seeing how that one turns out. Over on my side of Berkeley County, I have a slew of games in starting off with Stratford and West Ashley. It'll be the Marion Bowl 4. Joe Marion is the coach at Stratford. His brother Bobby Marion is the coach at West Ashley. They will meet for the 4th time in a football game. West Ashley has won the last 2. Stratford won the first Marion Bowl. So that's interesting to see which brother will kind of win that matchup. It's also big from a playoff standpoint. Each team has 1 region win over James Island, so the winner of the game will have the 2nd region win, and it'll be in a little bit better shape to get into the playoffs. That region that they're in is Region 7-5A. 6 teams will make the postseason. And so right now, James Island's at the bottom. Goose Creek, West Ashley, and Stratford all have 1 region win, and so they're vying. 2 of those teams are going to get into the playoffs. 1 of them is not, and so that's why that game, Stratford-West Ashley, is so huge. Key for Stratford in that one is they got to figure out a way to play some defense. They got to make stops. They can't allow guys to break off big plays on them. They've struggled with that all year, and we'll just have to see how they do this week. I want to mention for the Knights last week, Mario Anderson, he had 200 yards rushing and 2 touchdowns, 1 from 70, 1 from 74. You actually saw the game. It was a 42-14 loss to Ashley Ridge. That was a good performance by Mario Anderson, Stratford running back. Another big matchup, it's kind of a rivalry in that area. Hanahan will host BE. That's a very similar type situation to Stratford West Ashley in that it has some playoff stuff riding on it. The winner of the game will have a better chance to host a playoff game when the playoffs come around. Hanahan lost to Timberland, so it's kind of hard to say that they could win the region now, but if they could beat BE, that would give them a win over Manning and BE. Hanahan would be in line to finish second in the region, which does host a playoff game. And it should be a great crowd. I know Bishop England has a great quarterback, Leo Albano. He's kind of a magician with the ball. He'll do it all for Bishop England. And for Hanahan, you got the running back Quincy Mitchell, who's I think he's definitely over 1,100 yards rushing, could be over 1,200. He's a big-time weapon. Another game, Cane Bay and Stahl, pad your stats night for the Cobras. Chris Copeland, DeAndre Walker, DeAndre Dingle, TJ Johnson. They're all the offensive weapons of the Cobras. They should have an outstanding night. Cane Bay trying to keep pace with Buford and Berkeley in that region. If Cane Bay could win, that would keep them unbeaten in region play, and that's set up a huge matchup. I think Cane Bay and Buford play next week, or is it Cane Bay and Berkeley? But whatever, Cane Bay's got Buford and Berkeley in the next couple of weeks. So if Cane Bay can avoid slipping up against Stahl, which there's practically zero chance of that happening, Cane Bay and Buford will be hooking up in a big one next week. Northwood Chargers host Orangeburg Prep. Northwood still struggling, have that one win over Bethesda earlier in the year. Orangeburg Prep is a little bit bigger school, 4-3. Not really sure what Northwood's going to be able to do in this one, but Coach Keefe will coach them up and have them playing hard, trying to play their assignments right. St. John's Christian hosts Wardlaw. Wardlaw's the defending 8-man champion. It'll be a tough one for St. John's Christian, where I went Friday night, and I got a chance to take in an 8-man football game, and it was exciting. As I said it would be, St. John's won 66-58. Mikey Smith, a young man we've talked about all year, his ability. He had 8 touchdowns rushing for St. John's Christian, over 500 yards on the ground. He threw for a touchdown to Blaze Poston, and he also passed for about 60-something yards. So it was about 570 yards of total offense for that young man. And what I want him to see is, do I think this kid could have played at a public school? I mean, it's clear the kid could have played at a public school. He could have definitely helped somebody had he gone to a different school. But he loves St. John's Christian. A great player for them. Cooper Moore, a running back and linebacker, he had a big game too for the St. John's Christian Cavaliers. I think he had 133 yards rushing, and he made like 12 tackles. I believe Colin Robertson was a young man that had 12 tackles for the St. John's Christian Cavaliers last week. All those games I just mentioned, they were all Stratford, Hanahan, Cane Bay, Northwood, and St. John's Christian. All those guys are home. Some of my teams are on the road. Goose Creek is at Wando, another big region matchup. If the Gators could somehow win this one, that would give them their second region win. They've already beaten James Island. That would put them in great shape to make the playoffs if they could somehow go over there and beat Wando. Talent gap is not really that wide. I could very easily see Goose Creek going over there and beating Wando. Timberland is at Manning. If Timberland can handle Manning, they'll be well on their way to winning another region championship. The Wolves have won 11 region championships in 12 seasons. They knocked off Hanahan 20-7 on Friday. Big night for Roger Gibbs. He had a 41-yard touchdown run. I know Johnson Thomas ripped off like a 53-yard touchdown run. And they scored one more. Yeah, Jaquez Mitchell, the quarterback, he plunged one in from like 2. So Timberland getting real close to another region championship. Doesn't shock me. It's just generally what they do out there. That was win number 201 for Art Craig. 2 more things to mention. Cross is at Bethune-Bowman. The Trojans are coming off a 45-6 win at Branchville. Nate Walker, Iron Man type of player for Cross. He had 240 yards rushing. He also made 9 tackles on defense. He led the Trojans to a 45-6 win. They're at Bethune-Bowman to continue region play. The history suggests that Cross will come out on top in this one and continue to move forward in the region. Probably finish second in the region to C.E. Murray. Stopping there for a moment, Nate Walker for Cross, he made the Shrine Bowl. Congrats to him. He has over 760 yards rushing this year. He has 61 tackles for the defense. He has an offer from Wofford, so he's a next-level player. Coach Wright brags on him all the time about his academics, too. I think he was a 1,200 SAT kid, and he had 26 on the ACT. So this is a kid that's getting it done in the classroom and on the football field. Job well done by Nate Walker. He is one of 5 Low Country Shrine Bowl selections. Roger, from what I understand, you got some guys on that team too. Yep. I'll mention the other guy from Charleston County is Sam Hartman, the quarterback at Oceanside Collegiate. He has passed for, I don't know, I'm going to say about 2,500 yards this year. He's a selection from the area, and he's a great player. He's a Wake Forest commitment. Roger, you've been waiting for a long time. Sorry to hold you up. I guess to start off with your Shrine Bowl picks, if you can remember who they are.
Well, it's kind of an unusual year in that 2 quarterbacks, they only had 3 listed as quarterback on the roster. 2 of them are from the Low Country. You mentioned Hartman from Oceanside.
Yeah.
Dakereon Joyner, Fort Dorchester's quarterback, also on the list. And one of his favorite targets, Justin Williams, also selected for that. Summerville had Jackson Hutto, offensive lineman, selected for the Shrine Bowl. And he's a guy who can play multiple positions on that line. He's done a little bit of everything for Summerville. I believe he's playing tackle mostly this year. But Joe Call said he wouldn't be surprised if they didn't see Jackson being used as a center in the Shrine Bowl some. Because, you need somebody – you need one of your more experienced linemen at that center position. So you want to have some depth there. I don't know if that's – if they're looking at him as a starter there, or if they're – I don't know what's going on there. Just Joe said, don't be surprised if you see him play, a different position, or even maybe 1 or 2 positions during the game as they try to work all these guys in.
Yeah, South Carolina leads that series 44-32-4, but North Carolina has won 2 years in a row. Hopefully these gentlemen that we just mentioned, these young guys, will be able to help South Carolina get back to their winning ways in the Shrine Bowl. Well, as far as Week 7 games, tell us what happened, and tell us about Week 8 too.
All right. One of the more exciting games on Friday night was Pinewood. Pinewood went down by 2 scores at halftime. It was their homecoming game. I don't know if the guys were worried about who the homecoming queen was going to be or whatever, but they came out of the locker room at halftime. New team rallied to beat Wilson Hall 44-35. Matthew Latham had a big night, 3 touchdowns, 115 rushing yards. Austin Murphy passed for 126 yards and 2 TDs. Ethan Hirsch passed for 117 yards and 2 touchdowns. The Panthers are going to be going to Lawrence Manning this week, and they're hoping to bolster their division standings and get a better spot in the playoff.
Yeah.
Skis of that's still a lot to be determined, so I don't want to really get into where they might be, where they might not be, but they're definitely looking good right now if they could just pull off another win or 2. So.
All right.
Summerville also had an exciting game. They had Wando at Memorial Stadium, ended up beating them 24-21. Ended the game kind of like last week against West Ashley. Jonathan Bennett led the team downfield on a game-winning drive, ended up scoring on a rushing touchdown. But also we want to give props to Garrett Quakenbush. Last week he had the game-winning score with a field goal. This week Bennett capped the game off, but let's see, Quakenbush hit I wrote it down here because I knew I was going to forget it. It was a 29-yard field goal, so that's good to see them have that facet of the game working for them. Bennett completed a touchdown pass to Andre Banks, who led the Wave receivers with 40 yards. That might not seem so impressive, but that's because Bennett was spreading the ball around. Got the ball to a lot of receivers, and that's always good to see.
No doubt.
Kind of on the defensive side of the ball for Summerville, Deontay Geddes and Cole Phillips are kind of leading the way, or at least in that game, they were the leading tacklers. But those are 2 staples for the Wave defense that's making it so tough this year. This week, the Wave rolls into James Island. James Island is struggling. As long as Summerville doesn't take it for granted, I think they'll be okay in James Island. That's why they play the game. They have to see. If that would set up a huge finale for Summerville, if they can, go into their last game of the season with no region losses, that would be a good thing for Summerville. That's kind of what they're hoping for.
Yeah.
I think it'll keep them motivated. Ashley Ridge had a 42-14 win over Stratford, like you mentioned. In that game, Nick Cunningham had 4 touchdown runs and just was a beast. I mean, he was carrying defenders with him, getting the tough first downs that they needed. Yeah.
Heisman Trophy.
It was good. It was good to see him back in top form. Cunningham rushed for 278 yards. That's pretty impressive.
That is, no doubt.
Let's see. Matt Duncan, quarterback, passed for 164 yards and a touchdown pass to J.J. McAfee. On the defensive side, Nathan Eastep and Jaheim President had big games for Ashley Ridge. And to the Knights fans out there, I'd say that right now Ashley Ridge is looking like one of the top 3 teams in the region. So don't let that one-way score get you down too much. The guy who scored the touchdowns run for Stratford, Mario Anderson.
Yeah, Super Mario.
He really showed some burst when he would break through that line. So, I mean, when you have that kind of speed, that can keep you in any game. It was a close game right up until late in the third quarter, and then Ashley Ridge just kind of started pounding the rock, and they just kind of took care of business.
Stratford has some weapons. They've just struggled slowing anybody down. That's the thing that they need to work on. But like you said, if they can get a little bit of that squared away on defense, they've got some winnable games coming up.
Yeah. The last game was Fort Dorchester. Fort Dorchester keeps rolling. They had a 61-7 win over Goose Creek that you also mentioned. Right now, Fort Dorchester is outscoring its region opponents 262 points to 28. I'm sorry, I can't keep a straight face. That's just that's something right there.
Yeah, they're out. They're so much better than everybody else they're playing.
Yeah,
they are. That Summerville Fort Dorchester game in a couple of weeks could be amazing. I don't want to look past Ashley Ridge, but
right.
But anyway, yeah.
That's the big finale I was talking about. I didn't want to look past Ashley Ridge either, so that's why I didn't talk more about it. And, we'll talk about that next week.
Yeah.
That's right now. I mean, Joyner has combined yards passing and throwing. He has more than 1,500.
Yeah.
That's pretty impressive. His targets are always having big nights. Let's see. On the defensive side of the ball, Devon Gilmore, Jonathan Parker, and KJ Brown. All linebackers. They might be playing some in the secondary too, one or two of them, because I haven't seen them in a couple of weeks. But they're kind of leading the way. I mean, those are just 3 quality linebacker type players who are just making it tough to score on Fort Dorchester right now. In the secondary, I'm probably not pronouncing this right, but I want to say Dakereon Castro.
Okay.
We'll have to edit that out too. In the secondary for Fort, Dakereon Castro. I hope I'm pronouncing that right. It's kind of tricky. But anyway, he has 3 interceptions. Fort has 10 interceptions this year, plus some fumble recoveries. And some of those, it seems like 3 or 4, they've returned for touchdowns. Maybe more than that. I'll have to check my stats. But the defense for Fort is really looking tough. They have the big matchup with Ashley Ridge that they are hosting. And so that'll be their final home game of the season. That the Patriots are going to come out in full force. That's going to be a packed house. Both sides are going to be excited. And, Ashley Ridge tends to play their Dorchester 2 counterparts better than anyone. If that's the case this year, who knows? That game could be a lot closer than people think. Maybe get some turnovers by Ashley Ridge. If Ashley Ridge forces some turnovers, who knows? Maybe they can do something to really brag about.
I mean, it sounds like Ashley Ridge might be pretty good on the ground. I haven't seen him a lot, so I don't know. But with Cunningham rushing for 270-something yards, that would be the key against Fort Dorchester, is to keep the ball on the ground, not turn it over, keep that clock rolling, and kind of shorten the game by converting your third down and shorts. And I'm rolling with the Fort on that one. But Ashley, that would be the path of victory for Ashley Ridge, would be just to keep control of the ball as long as you can, and just keep feeding it to Cunningham, and maybe he can make some plays for him.
Yeah, and I don't want to tip off anybody here, so I won't mention names, but Coach Kenny Walker was telling me that they've just had so many injuries this year, and everybody has injuries. I mean, this time of year you're going to have some starters who aren't playing every game probably. But they seem to have really be struggling with injuries this year. Another one of their key players got hurt last week on offense, and I don't know if he's going to play this week or not. But hopefully Ashley Ridge will have some second string guys step up, and maybe also get some guys healthy that maybe didn't play in the game Friday, getting them ready for the Patriots. So we'll see.
You're saying hopefully like you're a closet Ashley Ridge fan. Do you pull with the
No, I just like I like it when I want to see somebody give for a game.
Yeah, they want to see it too.
I don't want to go out. This is the game I'm covering this week, and I don't want to go and write down, okay, Joyner to Williams, Joyner to Simmons, Joyner. I just want to be interesting. No, I have no dog in this fight. I pull for all the Dorchester 2 teams. Like it when they all win, but when they meet each other, only one can win, so I just go and see what happens. I didn't mean to sound like that, Rob. So
I was throwing you under the bus. Kind of reminds me when Goose Creek was really good at football. All those games were were very predictable, no matter who they played. Times have definitely changed, and Fort is the top dog for sure.
Right.
There's only one team in the state that can beat Fort. It's the Clemson Tigers, big guy.